Beef prices soar. Why you're paying more for steak and ground beef. Beef prices are now the new eggs in the grocery store, and they are skyrocketing. In recent times, the American public has become acutely aware of rising grocery costs, particularly when egg prices reached unprecedented levels. Fortunately, after the avian flu outbreak was managed and production resumed, egg prices have seen a decline. However, the situation has shifted dramatically, and now beef prices are reaching alarming heights. According to the Department of Agriculture, beef prices have surged nearly 9% since January, with the current retail price averaging $9.26 per pound. The Consumer Price Index for June revealed that steak and ground beef prices have increased by 12.4% and 10.3%, respectively, over the past year. But here's where it gets controversial. Reducing beef prices is likely to be a more complex challenge than it was for eggs. Michael Swanson, the chief agriculture economist at Wells Fargo, explains beef is way more complicated than eggs. The cattle industry resembles the Wild West of a protein market, while the egg market operates more like corporate America with structured supply and demand management. The surge in beef prices has been a decade in the making, driven by a combination of factors including dwindling cattle herds, severe drought conditions, and an increase in imported beef, all while demand remains robust. In a recent earnings call, Tyson Foods CEO Donnie King remarked, "Beef is experiencing the most challenging market conditions we've ever seen." According to the American Farm Bureau Federation, AFBF, cattle herd sizes are at their lowest in 74 years. The profitability of cattle ranching has diminished significantly, leading many ranchers to exit the industry. Even with these record high prices, the profit margins for cattle farmers and ranchers are extremely tight due to persistently high supply costs. AFBF economist Bernd Nilsson noted in a market intel report that even with these record high prices, margins for cattle farmers and ranchers are razor thin thanks to continued elevated supply costs. One of the major contributors to these supply costs is feed. Prolonged droughts across vast areas of U.S. ranchland have parched pastures, compelling ranchers to depend on pricier feed for their cattle instead of allowing them to graze freely on grass. Simultaneously, American consumers are seeking more variety in their beef options. Imported beef from countries such as Argentina, Australia, and Brazil now constitutes about 8% of U.S. beef consumption. Meanwhile, beef exports were slowed down, plummeting by 22% in May compared to the previous year. Swanson pointed out it's a significant shift that we've observed this year that wasn't anticipated. Just a couple of years ago, we were in a net neutral position, exporting some and importing some. He added that we will continue to see more beef consumption in the United States being supplied by the world market, and they're eager to do so since we have a highest priced beef globally. Despite these soaring prices, Americans are still consuming beef, with overall demand remaining strong, as reported by the AFBF. In response to these high prices, some retailers are getting innovative to manage costs. For instance, Walmart recently inaugurated its first ever wholly owned and operated beef processing facility in Olathe, Kansas. This new facility enables Walmart to collaborate directly with suppliers, eliminating the middleman and reducing expenses. John Laney, Walmart's executive vice president of food, stated this is the first case-ready facility fully owned and operated by Walmart. And that milestone ensures we're able to bring more consistency, more transparency, and more value to our customers. As for when beef prices might decrease for consumers, Nelson suggests that it largely depends on consumer behavior. He noted, historically, U.S. consumer demand for meat has increased with better household financial conditions and tends to decline when incomes fall. If consumer confidence wanes alongside financial uncertainty, demand for beef could be jeopardized, especially given the record high retail prices. This scenario could leave producers and ranchers in an even more precarious position. Swanson expressed concern, stating, "I believe we are nearing the peak of this current cycle. That's the real worry for this industry. Nobody wants to be left holding the bag with overpriced cattle when prices inevitably start to drop." What do you think? Are we heading towards a beef crisis, or will the market stabilize? Share your thoughts in the comments. Jim South Street. The impact of rising beef prices on Philly cheesesteaks. In the heart of Philadelphia, a beloved cheesesteak institution faces a daunting challenge: the skyrocketing cost of beef. Jim South Saint, a staple for locals and tourists alike, is grappling with a significant increase in beef prices. which threatens to impact both the business and its loyal customers. But here's where it gets controversial. Should the restaurant raise prices to offset these costs, or find another way to manage? Ken Silver, the president of Jim Southsaint, knows a thing or two about beef. After all, he's been serving up Philly's iconic cheesesteaks for decades. The recent spike in beef prices has him worried, as he hopes it won't lead to financial strain for his business or his customers. Silver is considering raising the prices of his famous sandwiches, or even implementing a market price system similar to what you might see with seafood. "I really hate to do that," he admits, acknowledging the potential backlash from customers. The rising cost of beef is not a new phenomenon. Over the past 20 years, US beef prices have been steadily climbing due to a tight supply of cattle, coupled with the enduring popularity of beef. Silver notes that the price of beef from his supplier has increased by about $1 per pound compared to last year. This comes on top of a roughly 50% increase when the restaurant reopened in 2024 after a devastating fire. "It's crazy," Silver remarks, highlighting the financial strain. For now, Silver's strategy is to absorb the increased costs and hope for a reduction after the summer grilling season ends. A cheesesteak at Jim Southsaint currently costs $13.49, up from $11.49 in 2022. The sandwich, typically made with thinly sliced beef, cheese, and onions, is a Philadelphia classic that customers have come to love. But this is the part most people miss. The impact on consumers is significant. The average price of a pound of ground beef rose to $6.12 in June, up nearly 12% from a year ago. The average price of all uncooked beefsteaks rose 8% to $11.49 per pound. Silver acknowledges the financial hit his business has taken to maintain the quality and reasonable pricing customers expect. One customer, Brian Williams, suggests that a price hike wouldn't deter him from ordering. "That's just how things are going lately," he says, understanding the economic pressures. But what do you think? Should Jim Southsaint raise their prices to offset the rising cost of beef, or is there a better solution? Share your thoughts in the comments below.